stumble upon recipes that will request that you blind bake your pie shell before adding the filling, as I've done in my ready-to-roll dough for savory. If you are following the instructions that we've provided on the back, and then the filling on the underside of this sleeve, which is a ham and cheese quiche filling, you'll be asked to follow these steps. So I'd like to walk you through it so you understand how to do this and that it is a very successful process for you. And if you're unfamiliar with blind baking means to pre-cook or fully cook the shell before adding the filling. This will ensure, or hopes to ensure, that the crust is fully cooked, that it remains crisp and tender. In these instances, the crust takes longer to bake than the filling, and that's why you're asked to do this in a two-step process. So, tools needed. I prefer parchment paper. You can use foil if you do not have it. And then you need some kind of weight to keep that shell in place so that it doesn't sink into the bottom of the pie shell or bubble or shift. I am going to take this parchment paper and I'm going to line my tart shell, or my pie shell, I should say. But before I do that, I'm going to crumple it up a bit. This is going to create a more malleable surface to receive the pie weights. Just simply press this down and make sure it's even. You don't want your pie weights to fall out. And then you're going to add your weights. I prefer just using dried beans, which I store in a large deli container. I use them time and time again. Once they're cooled, you can transfer them back to your container, put a lid on it, and keep it with your baking supplies. I will simply pour these into the prepared shell, which I will remind you has been chilled for a half an hour to an hour in the refrigerator, or preferably in the freezer, lined with parchment or foil, and then drop the beans into the shell. And this is 4 cups of dried beans. And then I just take the backs of my hands and just press these beans into the shell and the parchment to ensure that I'm really getting down into those rounded edges of the pie plate. Once it hits the oven and that butter hits the oven, it's going to want to melt and retreat. Most likely it's going to want to go into the pie plate. So I like to just press those beans right up to the crimped edge, not on top, not over, but just right up there, so there's just a little wall to retain, and that's it. Place your prepared shell on a center rack in your preheated 375-degree oven and bake for 30 minutes. After 30 minutes, carefully remove the pie shell from the oven. Remove the beans, return the shell to the oven and bake for 8 to 12 minutes or until golden brown. And there you have it, blind baking. The fundamental steps to get you to lemon meringue pie, pumpkin pie, custard pies, quiches, it's endless. With the steps I've shown you, the tools that I've used, and the instructions that I have given you, I wish you the best success and happy rolling.